Grand Rising. Happy Wednesday. I'm back with another video. Today's video is coming to you live from the Keel in another Black Indian warrior woman's experience. Today I'm going to be sharing with you baking bread. It's something that in my growing up was a common occurrence. That's what my mom did all the time. She baked batches of bread. So I grew up eating homemade bread. And when I moved home, I said to myself, that's something I'm getting back to. I'm getting back more to my roots. So it wasn't just the garden. It wasn't just connecting with nature. It was also about connecting with my roots more in the kitchen and getting back to that natural. I grew up in a very large family, and we were, for all the obvious, we were poor in terms of material. However, we were rich in so many things. I grew up, what some would say, like an off-grid living. We did not have indoor plumbing until I was 11, and that's when we moved into this house. So up to 11, running water was not in fact, no, we did get running water into the house that came from the well. We were able to do that, and that was the dug well. However, that water still needed to be heated, so that was a process. We burnt wood to heat. My mom made everything, so we didn't go to the store for baked goods. Our meat, if we didn't raise the animal ourselves, then it was purchased, and that's what you lived off of for the winter, whether that was a pig or a cow. So I grew up in an environment of where you worked to live, which means everything you did to sustain yourself was also to keep you in existence. So my mom was always doing something. My dad was always doing something that was to sustain us. And when they were doing that, they were providing lessons, life lessons, lessons that are priceless, very, very priceless, especially during these days when we are looking at the rising cost of food, which has become at a cost of where, you know what, most can't afford their basics. Especially if you have a family of two, three, there is a struggle that's going on there. I can't imagine, not because I know what it's like for myself. However, growing up the way that I did, it taught you how to live with less, work with what you have. Because there's another thing about my mother. She knew how to create the miracles in the kitchen. And I know my mom was not the only one, because women of that age, they brought the miracles to the kitchen. Oftentimes they were the ones going through the extreme times. which meant you went through the extreme times, but they made it feel less extreme in some way. My whole point being is getting back to today's video in the baking of the bread. Whenever I bake bread, it connects me with my mom. And coming up in a family of 13 children, you didn't get a whole lot of one-on-one. So I took every advantage I could to be with that woman in a one-on-one space. And in the kitchen, her baking bread, I would be the one that would be standing there asking questions, asking if I could put the holes into the bread. Because my mom used to put holes into the top of her bread, and I don't. I don't know why. I guess it was to release the air, but then my mom, whoa, her process, I think sometimes she probably let it overrise because she get carried away with doing projects and she didn't get it in the oven fast enough. So I think that's the reason for the poking of the holes, because if you let the bread rise too much, you'll end up with air holes, which is a process that you'll come to know if you choose to bake your own bread. But in those lessons of being in the kitchen with my mom, it went from me standing there watching her do the process and watching that process. As I said, we made our own, or she made her own bread, and it wasn't just a loaf of bread, it was a batch of bread. So from the preparation of the yeast and hearing her throughout the years talking about I scalded my yeast, which, I never really understood what that meant. But, the water was too hot, so the yeast, it didn't ferment the way that it should have. But once again, all these lessons, just like click, 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 they just come in line to the point of where, you know what? It's natural. For that, I am blessed. Hopefully, we get through this. I have set everything up and I've got everything measured out, and eventually I'm going to be taking you to the kitchen. This is such a perfect day. I'm going to tell you why. Yesterday we went from hoodies and now we need winter coats. The wind came up somewhere late in the day, and the temperatures changed yesterday, and they have been on that incline. So it is a cooler temperature morning here in Lakeal. And I keep looking out the window because it's a gray day. Actually, I'm going to show you. And it's cold. So it's perfect. The house up. I got the fire going. The fire is going. And this is what we got going on out here. The wind. And look, all the leaves have gone and disappeared off the trees. We won't be sitting out here and doing a video. Ooh. Anyways. Things back around. There we are. Okay. Okay, I'm back. But we're in the kitchen. I'm going to wash my hands. Yes, it is a cool day out there. So we need 4 ingredients to do this. We will need flour, we will need yeast, and we will need sugar, and we will need salt, and water. And I know that there are different ways that you can do this, and there are different types of breads. I'm just giving you the simple bread that I grew up with, that I continue to do, which sustains me. And I love it, and I just don't make one loaf. I make 3, put one in the freezer while I'm eating one, and I always share one. Or I try to always share one. with someone else. So, in terms of measurements, I measured everything out. And as I said, I'm going to be doing not 6 loaves. I'm going to be doing 3 loaves of bread. So, I'm going to try and consciously break down the ingredients between 3 loaves and 1 loaf. So, basically, I'm going to run through these ingredients. For 1 loaf of bread, you would use 3 cups of flour. 3 cups of flour to a packet of yeast. And this is the Fleischmann's traditional active dry yeast, which is the yeast in which you need to prepare. They also have the quick rise yeast, which you do not have to prepare, which I also have here, which I don't like as much because the bread doesn't rise to the consistency that I like, and so I like to use the active yeast. It gives a much better rise. So, in having said that, that is going to be the first thing that we're going to do, is prepare our yeast. But I'm going to go back to the ingredients. So it is, as I said, 3 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of oil, 1 packet of dry yeast. So that's our 4 ingredients. And a cup of water. A cup of water. Because I'm using the active dry yeast. Okay, so to start, we are going to prepare our yeast. So I prepare my yeast in this cup, measuring cup. And the water that I'll be using today, your water to help activate this yeast should be more than room temperature. I'm using my tap hot water, and I'm letting this, I'm letting that water run because I want it hot. And yes, I'm using water with a tap. I have well water. I have artesian well. I am not on the system, so I have good water. Most people where I live here in Lakeel have their own well or water source. The water hole that you saw in the last video is for those that don't have a good water source, those that live within the town limits and outer limits that do not have that good water source. Use that water hole, the spring water. So I am blessed. Now, as you see, I'm pouring the packets of yeast in. You at home that are just making 1 loaf, it would be just 1 pack. So we want warm water. So to a packet of yeast, you are going to be putting in 1 teaspoon of sugar. The sugar helps to activate the yeast. And as I said, I'm going to measure this out. 1 teaspoon. I do have it measured up, but I also put sugar in the bread itself, which is also in here. So I just want to put it in for the yeast right now. Just like that. Just like that. Get my spoon. So, now we've got the sugar in there. We've got the yeast in there. So, to each packet, you are going to put a 1/4 cup of water. So, I'm going to be using 3/4 cups of water in my yeast. Now, I'm going to set that there, give it a little stir, get that sugar in there, get her activated. Because that's what we want to do, activating the yeast. Now I'm going to get a cloth to put over that. I just take a dishcloth, clean dishcloth. That's what I did. See, I don't know whether you saw, but that's my yeast in there with my water, which came out of the tap. It needs to be warm water. That's what I meant in the, as I said earlier about scalding the yeast. You don't want the water too hot. You don't want to put boiling water or anything like that. It should be warm. Not too warm, but you know, warm. Okay, now I'm going to go through. Now in here, I have put 6 cups of flour. 6 cups of flour. And I have my extra flour in here. You're going to see why I have extra flour. Because when it comes to the kneading process and folding everything in, you fold that flour in, which is giving you that extra consistency that you want. So with my 6 cups of flour, with you it would be 2. See, I got my spoon. I don't know whether you guys can see really well or not. Maybe I could bring you closer, but I don't know if I bring you closer if you'd see. We'll see. Maybe bring this back a bit more. Or do I have it up too high? You probably want to see the ingredients. So if I do it like that, is that better? It is better. I had you up too high. Oh well. We don't want you up too high because I want you to at least get the experience out of this. Okay. Now that our phone is much better, I didn't know why I felt I needed it that high. I guess I wanted it all in there. It's okay. So what I'm doing with my flour right now, okay, I am going to add, this is my salt. So per loaf, 1 teaspoon. So if you're just making 1 loaf, 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm making 3 loaves, so it's going to be 3 teaspoons of salt, which I've thrown in there. This is, and also a tablespoon of sugar. This would be the tablespoon of sugar, okay? A tablespoon. So for me, and guess what, guys? I'm going to put 1 more sugar in here. And I'm adding a tablespoon. A tablespoon is what I added. turn that in there like that. Okay. So now we are going to be, we have to wait for our yeast to rise. No, I'm not drunk. Although it's 7:33 in the morning. And that's okay. Because I've been up since, today, 4:30. Yeah, that's the way she goes. I never sleep fully through the night. And I always wake early. I do like early. So, I'm going to go and put wood in the stove. I have to do that. Okay, I'm back and hands are washed. And yeast is ready. Now that took probably, maybe not even 10 minutes. So this is what your yeast is going to look like from that watery substance that we just put in. Now I put all my ingredients in the bowl, the dry ingredients. I'm going to mix them together. And I've also prepared my water over here, getting that ready. Which I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put it in a bowl. My extra water. I'm adding, so like I said, it would be a cup of water. Now, I just boiled that, and I don't want that. And remember, I'm doing 3 loaves, so mine's going to be different than yours. You are doing a cup of water. Now I'm going to get my oil ready, is what I'm going to do. So, I put my oil in my water. So, as I said, it's going to be 2 tablespoons of oil. 1. 6. There. We did not forget our oil. So, here's what I got going on here right now. I'm making a well with my flour. This is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see, but you know what? Pushing all this flour to the sides so that it creates a well. And I am going to put my yeast. Just dump it in. Just like that. Just like that. And I'm also going to take my water that I had over there to the side and dump it in there just like that. Water and oil. Dump it into the bowl. And now I'm just going to take and fold it in. And get ready to have your hands in flour and real mucky. So that's why it's really good to have things prepared before. Because we're going to have to need this. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, because you're going to have to be. Now I just start folding it in. That's how you need. Fold it in towards you, press down. Turn the bowl, fold it in towards you, press down. Fold it in towards you, press down. Now, as you see, I have that extra flour over there. When the time comes for me to need it, what I'm doing is I am folding it in, pressing down, and that's what you call kneading. And I'm going to do this about 50 times, actually. Okay, you don't need to be on. Irritating. I need a new pump, pressure pump, that pumps the water from the well, which is coming, so my water doesn't come up in my kitchen tap very well. Now, so far I don't need that extra flour, which is good. And I'm just folding it in, kneading it, getting everything mixed together. As I said, about 50 times you're going to do this. So I'm going to stop the video, and I'm going to keep kneading. Okay, I'm back. So, I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. It all kneaded. Just like that. I kneaded it, flipped it, set it there. Now I'm going to let that rest. Put the cover on it, seal it, and let it raise. And I'll be back. I'm back. I thought that whilst the bread was rising, I might continue to have a conversation. I shared with you about my growing up, and I used the word poor. It didn't feel poor. It felt many things, but it didn't feel poor, because I felt very rich. Growing up with that many brothers and sisters, you always had, it was like having your own ball team, actually. And when we were going through rough times, we had one another. And that helped the whole process be something completely different. That's not to say that, you know what, there aren't residual effects of that, but I don't focus on that. In fact, I have always looked at the positive of our experience. I don't know. As I said to you in a previous video, I did a lot of YouTube and been doing a lot of YouTubing and following different folk. And I seem to be very much taken with the nomads and the people who have chosen to go off grid and just create a different life a much more simpler life. Connect with nature. I connect with those programs because that is how I grew up. And I look at how I grew up and I see how someone is making money off of YouTube on how I grew up. We would have been rich if you'd have had, if we had had a video camera back in the day. We would have been rich just documenting our lives on a daily. And as I said, I was 11 years old before we had indoor plumbing. So my memory on those lessons is very strong. How to survive is very strong inside me. In my adult life, I have really come to appreciate that less is more. At this stage in my life, I like the simplicity that comes with um, living simple. And yes, I have electricity, and I would love to be off grid, completely off grid. However, I'm not completely off grid. And what I will do is I will continue to simplify my life, sustain my life in a way that I do not need to be dependent on a system or others, that I can self-sustain. So that's currently what I am working towards right now in my life. I was given the opportunity to come back home and have a place. That was the great importance of this family home. And so it has allowed me to continue to live my dream and plant those roots, and actually coming back to my roots and planting deeper roots from where I come from. So that's pretty powerful. I was thinking about one of the staples that we always had growing up. It was a staple because it was the one thing that um, if you didn't have anything else, most of the time you had a potato. And that, as I said, that staple is a potato. And I think about going into a restaurant and them serving potato bacon soup, and it being a menu choice for many. And it was a survival meal for me growing up. The only difference is we didn't have the bacon into it. Instead, I can remember my mom using salt, or not salt pork, but pork rind, and cutting that up and creating, I guess, like an oil. And that was the substitute, I guess, for the bacon. And her process, she didn't use the cream. She made her own uh, thickening substance that went with the potato. But I love that soup. And in my adult life, I make it. I add the bacon. I also add some herbs with it. But to think that survival soup, um, that when we were eating it, in our minds, we knew that there wasn't much else. But it became a delicacy. It's funny how life goes in your perspective. Anyways, I just thought I'd share that story with you. There's one that was going around in my head. So as you can see, I have a new do. I like it. I like it. I like it. I guess you would call this a pixie. I like the coloring. Tell me what you think. Do you think I can wear this? It's making me feel right fresh. Although this top does not match. I'm really not matching much at all, but you know what? We're not here for that. We're not here for that. I do match with my lighting. But tell me if you like it. Tell me if it's a yay or a nay. It's really not going to matter. I need to let you know that. Because I do like it and I will wear it. But it'll be interesting to hear your feedback. Hit the like, subscribe if you are enjoying this content. And I hope that, you know what, this video of making bread resonates with you and may be a part of your growing up experience. And when times were a lot more wholesome, that's for sure, when times were a lot more wholesome. I hope it resonates with you, because I'm sharing it with you because, as I said, it's a personal experience that brings me closer to my mom. I know what's in the bread. I know it's not got a bunch of additives, and I actually like my own bread more than I would ever any of that store-bought bread. I wouldn't normally do content like this, but tell me if you like it, and tell me perhaps maybe what I could do different, because I am definitely open for suggestions. Tell me also what you would like to, tell me more of what you would like to know, because we are sharing an experience. And my experience is to be as authentic as I possibly can. Oddly enough, as I said, I am a very private person, believe it or not. So me sharing my life on any level on a camera is not something that comes to me natural. However, it is a way to connect. People, I love connecting with people. And this has become an avenue of being able to connect with people from all over. Because I'm going to say something, we are more alike than we are different. We often focus on where we are different. That's something to think about. Something to think about. Anyways, I'm just going to continue to let the bread rise. I'm going to come back to the video when the bread is done rising and we're ready for the next step.